Hey guys, I'm Chris.
I'm Shane, and together we are
Slightly more.
Slightly More.
Ooh.
That sounds horrible when you put it that way, though. We're
We're just-
more than just slightly.
We're just a little more
We're
than
slightly more.
most. What is this? If you can't
like,
see it
whatever
now.
adjective you would like to input into, is it adjective?
Yeah.
Yeah, like slightly more handsome, slightly more
That's my phone.
preoccupied with phones that are going off during.
That's
our
never
thing.
happened before during this, by the way.
Okay, so what are we going to be talking about today?
Today we're talking about.
Outside influences.
Well, I was trying to think of a cool way to word that, and where I was going with this is, like, as magicians, we're kind of. I don't know how to word this. Preoccupied with magic more than we should be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good assessment of it. Yeah.
Which isn't bad. I think that's why it's such
That's not the corona, that's allergies. Just wanted to clarify.
He says that, but I don't. There's no way to. Did you get tested?
No.
How do you get tested?
I don't have any of the symptoms though.
Urine cough. That's a symptom.
That's not, I mean, a dry throat is a symptom, but it's not like I have a runny nose. But apparently, did not know this till literally 2 minutes ago, the coronavirus, if you have a runny nose, not part of it apparently. But
Well,
who knows, you know?
Allergies are really bad this year. I've heard,
Allergies are bad.
and they definitely did not read the room on that.
Yeah, absolutely not. Also, I think I literally just developed allergies in the last month.
You know, like war veterans, like 4th of July, like they just flashbacks to the war and stuff.
Yeah.
Every time you go to the register and it's like your total's 2020, I'm just gonna have flashbacks of like coughing and like people like what I mean.
Yeah, we're like having. I feel like every time I go out, like I'm having to like guard myself and cover up so people don't think like, ooh, like I have leprosy or something.
So part of the reason we want to talk about this is because when writing shows or coming up with magic tricks, we find that a lot of magicians are sort of in gridlock or writer's block. They have trouble being creative in their own right, and I think part of that is because not everybody knows how to draw from outside influences.
Mm-hmm.
And me and Shane we have a lot of different hobbies and interests that are outside the world of magic, like both very into music.
Yeah.
I assume you're into spoken word a little bit, like you attend a lot of those events. And
Yeah.
Like, just art in
like
general.
poetry readings and slams and all that.
Yeah, I love that type of stuff too.
Storytelling stuff, yeah.
And so I think the more that you can take something that doesn't exist already in the world of magic and bring it into the world of magic, then you'll be seen as a more creative mind, and you'll find that you're less in your own head. And so we kind of talk about this a lot when we were on the road, when we were filming Beyond the Magic. We would hear certain things or come up with ideas and try to find ways to incorporate them into the show you were developing.
Yeah.
Shane's probably a better person to start this off than I am, just because I feel like my show's already kind of finished at this point. Like I'm still working on little things, but for you, you're still in the process of writing a whole new show.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm two things I'm very much interested in that I do a lot of my own reading on and research on is the concept of time and quantum physics, believe it or not. I was literally reading about it last night for a while too. I'm very much interested in this whole are we living in a simulation kind of thing? So the simulation hypothesis right now is really fascinating to me. I'm reading a book on it right now. And for those of you that might not know what that is, it's literally this concept that we're living in a computer simulation, that the reality is not real, and that we're all part of this, like, basically we're all part of this game that someone else is controlling, and super interesting. A lot of really big scientists actually buy into this idea that we're living in this computer simulation.
Well, I think
Elon Musk is one of them.
More mathematically possible than it not being a simulation.
Yeah, is it more mathematically possible that we're not living in a simulation?
We are.
Oh, that we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more possible that we are living in a simulation, which is really fascinating to me. So that's one, and then just this whole concept of time, and so. I really don't know how to explain this without like how it relates to my show.
Let me kick this off by saying
please.
That you are the most unique thing in your show.
Right.
or in your magic experience, or in whether you're a writer or a musician. My friend Sammy Branson, he is a rapper, but he's super into politics, and him being so into politics makes him a super unique guy because he does not strike you as the type of guy who'd be super into policy and
Right.
politics. But he does like socio-political topics in his rap music, but he also makes them kind of funny. And him being just a funny, goofy guy, being super into politics, and then also rapper, is what makes him unique. And that's why there's no one else who really does what he does.
Mm-hmm.
So with Shane being really into simulation theory and time, but also being a mentalist, that's something that will build you up as this unique brand, this unique feel that your show will have, or the magic that you decide to present, whether it's even just at a bar or with your friends. It's something that nobody else can imitate because it's very you.
Right.
And so I think what we were saying is like, you were going to talk about areas of your life that you're interested, that you incorporate in your show just because you like them.
Yeah, and I think it's it's more. Being super focused on, like, years past, being super focused on the tricks, and now being super focused on the character and how it relates to the audience, and then also here's the best way to describe it as far as timeline of how I see the show. It started out with the tricks, right? The tricks are the most important, right? I need to have tricks that fool people, right? Not the best way, right? You figure that out along the way. Not the best route to take, right? Because then you end up having a show that's trick after trick after trick after trick. And I still see that with even high caliber magicians today. I don't know how they do that.
Well,
I don't enjoy it.
With magic, usually you see that one trick and it blows your mind, and then you get into all this magic when really it was just one trick that caused that feeling.
Yeah.
So you kind of only really need one trick in your show that makes people feel that way, to get that emotion across. Because once they felt that emotion, there's no reason to revisit it. It's like a horror movie. It's like, it's a jump scare after jump scare after jump scare. The first jump scare is awesome, but actually I hate them, but people like them. And then after that, it's like, what,
Yeah. So then the progression was from being all about the tricks to being about my own character, right? But if you're about yourself too much on stage, I think it can be off-putting to the audience, because it's like, well, he's up there just to perform for himself. He's not really here to perform for us. He wants to tell us about, or she wants to tell us about how good they are and show us how great they are at these things. Like, look what I can do, kind of a thing. So that was the second part of the progression. Now it's audience focused, right? So it's more of like 70% audience focus for me at this point, and 30% my own story, and how those two play in together, and like the back and forth dichotomy of the two, but in the midst of the show, right?
Yeah, I think there's a difference between the witnessing of emotions, like watching somebody feel emotion, and transferring emotion. Like if somebody's watching you feel a way about something, you're telling a story about this time you felt something. They're just watching you experience an emotion. But if you transfer that emotion to the audience, that's where the real power comes in. And that's why pulling from outside influences is so important. For instance, music is one of the easiest ones. If you hear a song and that build up really got you just, super energetic and excited, and then it just brought you right back down. You don't even need to necessarily use that song in your show. You can, which I think is what most people do, but think of that energy, that feeling. What can you do or say, or what can you play that will build that energy the same way and then bring them right back down?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You want to transfer that emotion you had when listening to that song to your audience.
Right. Yeah. Some of the things, something I'll do now, because I really, really enjoy, I think a lot of people relate to music, is I'll just listen to, so like I have a website that I get all the music for the videos that I do, and the videos that I do for you. Any client, right? For the video clients, I have a website that's just instrumentals, and they have some on there that have words or have people singing. But I'll just go through music sometimes and just listen to different songs and just think about what routine, like, this would be good for this routine, right? So like the Blockhead thing, I literally several months ago was listening to music. I was like, that'd be great for this Blockhead thing, because it has this really intense build up, and then it falls off right away, and it hits you again. So it's like this really intense buildup of like taking the nail out, putting the nail in, waiting, build up. And then when the music drops is when you get the tick, tick, tick of the nail going in, right? And then the music hits again, right? So if you think of the flow of the routine, I mean, the music really backs that up. You shouldn't put music in your show just to put music in your show. Like, it needs to have direction as far as why you're putting it, right? You would agree with that, yeah?
100%. And I got 2 points I really want to hit on. And before I get to that, I just want to mention how hard it is to not touch your face. I have a really itchy
I'm like
nose.
touching my face now. Jeez.
I think they say that if you look it up, the number of times you touch your face in an hour will shock you.
Oh, yeah.
It's somewhere like in the high 30s
Yeah.
for sure.
There was a video that just came out. I saw yesterday that the Mythbusters did on contamination. Have you seen that yet?
No, I should watch that.
Yeah. So they made I forget which guy. I think it was Adam. Put like a mechanical runny nose built in, right? And then they held like a dinner party, and so like it had this like bioluminescent like liquid that you couldn't see in normal light, but when they turned the black lights on, it shows up, and like his whole face was covered in it because he had touched his face so much. All of his hands were covered, his arms, his clothes, like, and then you could see it on other people. It's all like, it was interesting how it transferred. But anyways.
So there you go.
Side note.
There's a great way to pull influence. Watching that episode, you think, what did that communicate with me? You get this cool. It's almost like a magic trick. Like,
yeah,
you couldn't believe how much it spread. Maybe think of that in a mentalism show, some physical way to show how ideas move.
Well, yeah, so that concept is built into, and I was literally just reading about this last night, of almost like Darren Brown-esque, right? So he reads your mind, like you say a word out loud, but then he shows you all the steps that it took to get up to you saying that specific word, like things that he's implanting during the show and things that you visually see and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's pretty interesting.
So this is the opposite. This is how magic actually influenced a song that I was making. I got back on Fruity Loop Studio for the first time. And
never heard of that.
It's like what
Sounds
people use. Yeah, Fruity Loop Studio. It's just a music production software.
Yeah.
And I made this drum beat, and I'm listening to it. I'm like, I couldn't figure out why it sounded fake. Like, I'm like, why does it just? I'm using all the right drums. Like, I pitched everything right. Why does it sound so phony? And I'm like, you know what? It's like a mentalism routine. Like, if everything is so perfect, it's not believable. So I had to put in a bass drum that was slightly off beat at one point. I had to move the beat and drop the pitch a little bit. And it sounded so much more real because that one miss hit.
Right.
And so that was how and literally that's the thought process I had, was like, it's like mentalism. And just as a magician, I couldn't escape that thought. It's like, it was too perfect. It had to have a little miss hit. And then it made the whole song better. So
yeah, your routines can be too perfect.
Yeah.
Right. If I tell you, think of a word, and then I immediately name the word you're thinking of, people are like, wait a second, that's almost too people are more convinced there's a trick to it when there really isn't, which is kind of interesting to think about.
And the main topic that I wanted to cover in this is that the things that you see in everyday life, the transferring of emotion is everywhere. And you have so many examples of things that you can put into your show. Because, for instance, a commercial, they're going to try to use the same techniques that you'll use in your show to make people feel things. And actually, that's one of the best things to watch to get inspiration from your show is a commercial. They have a 30-second time slot to communicate something really powerful enough to move you to buy a product.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola commercials are amazing at this.
Yeah.
And I find myself often watching a video of a commercial that they put out and going, how do I make people feel like that from my show?
Yeah, it's interesting. Some commercials, like the bigger brands like Coke and Pepsi and McDonald's and all of those, they're more about building brand as opposed to selling a product, right? So like, if you look at a product commercial, so it's two different feelings, right? So Coke is trying to sell you the story of why you would feel great and look great and be great by drinking Coke, right? As opposed to like someone that's selling like a product for like a hair product or something. Right. It's like they're selling the product, not necessarily the feeling behind it, right? But that's not always the case, because it's like you look at maybe a shampoo commercial and the one hand's like feeling great, so she's trying to sell the feeling behind it, which is what's the perfect segue into the next piece of this which is the commercials is great. Looking at movies is great. Looking at short films is great. Like films that are like 7 to 10 minutes long, because they don't have an hour to 2 hours to input the entire story into the frame. They only have 7 to 10 minutes, right? And so it's a great way. Once again, same concept. It's a great way to look at the story arc, the beginning, the middle, and the end. a thing that I would suggest for you all to do, it's something that I'm currently doing now, is reading books on how to tell stories based
Perfect.
on the traditional story arc of a
What book
beginning, a
do you have a
middle,
book title?
and end.
If you don't right now, you can just link it or
I
something.
literally just bought it on Amazon a few months ago. Talk and I'll
Yeah,
look
while
for it.
he's looking that up, I'll mention that something that really influenced me. I just recently wrote a book for Amaze Kids with Danny Orleans, and that whole idea started from one comic strip I saw online. One comic strip that mentioned talking to kids about the coronavirus. And that influenced me to write a whole new show. I think a lot of magicians, they pull, like, okay, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus here. For instance, like, my friend Jawal, he like, draws his inspiration from magic a lot of the times from other magic. And that's awesome, and I think that's
I
great.
do that as well.
Yeah, and you have to do that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it should be the only thing you do, which for him, it's not. And my other friend, James Mollenkamp, he does this great. He, just like, again, politics, he has a political magic show. It's so funny how...
Yeah.
Yeah, and see, Shane goes, interesting, and it piques your curiosity, and you want to learn more about that. You want to find out. It sounds like it's almost going to be a train wreck, but then you have to go to see if it is. You know what I mean? You're like,
Right.
ooh, this is going to be, kind of polarizing, and I'm sure he pulls it off in a really awesome way. So...
Right. TED Talk storytelling is one of them. So if you've ever heard of TED Talks, they're super interesting. Also look at TED Talks because they only have 18 minutes. The speakers only have 18 minutes to convey their idea, right? So TED Talks, if you go to TED.com, you can look up videos. Just look up the most viewed videos. Those are the ones that are the really great talks. One very specific one, Ken Robinson. Ken Robinson is a British guy, English guy. He's got one of the most, I think it's been viewed like 16 million times on there. Incredible. Talk about like, I just brought this up. We have another magician friend of ours that sent us a video recently of a routine he's working on. And I told him the same thing that I told you, that I tell you a lot, which is like, let the magic sit, right? So like when the moment of magic hits, don't immediately go into the next thing. You have to let that magic sit for the viewer, because they're trying to process. You got to think from a spectator's point of view. They're trying to process everything that's going on. And if you're just racing through the effect and you don't give them a time to relax for a second. So that's why it's good to listen to music and watch movies and watch music videos and read stories, look at commercials, is because you get this, you don't get just barreling through the entire thing. I think, so I just watched like a couple months ago that movie, the Adam Sandler movie came out. You remember that?
Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems, right? That movie literally gave me a panic attack.
Yeah.
Because it was nonstop in your face, like hard hitting throughout the entire movie and never stopped from beginning to end. So it's like, I know that that's the feeling that he's trying to convey in that movie. But that's not for everyone. It wasn't for me. Seriously, it gave me a panic attack. I almost had to walk out of the theater.
And I think at some point maybe we'll do an episode on this about creativity, because I don't want to dip too heavily into that. But I do want to say that when you get these ideas, these inspirations, don't limit yourself to say, well, what tricks do I know that can do that? Write what you would like to do. Like, that's how I've come up with all my best ideas, is what would I like to happen? And then work backwards. Then come up with the idea of how to do that. Because genuinely, if you don't limit yourself, you can do anything. Like, sure, you may have to invest $60 in a blender that you take apart and remove the blades to make this trick work.
Right.
But that will be something that feeling of creating something, whether you perform it or not, would be amazing to you.
Yeah.
It's so well worth it. So I just think, like, don't put barriers or walls or limitations or say, oh, it has to be this long, or, oh, but it has to be realistic. Like, just let the creativity flow, let the ideas move, and then if you need to make it more realistic as you scale it back, that's fine. But I know that's something, I'm just sharing that with people because that's something I struggle with a lot, is like putting myself in boxes and then the ideas never come.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but just try to, I mean, as Chris mentioned in the beginning, we tend to focus on magic more than we do anything else. And so I'm a lot like Joel. Like, I'm constantly looking at new things.
I stay away from the world of magic. I learned from my mentor, Jester Jim. He never talks to any other entertainers or jugglers.
Yeah.
He does his own thing. His show's super original. Not that my show's super original or anything, but like, I try not to look at other magicians as much as possible. I do still sometimes, especially now that we're quarantined. I'm doing a lot more. I just know how I am. I'm so quick to try to do what somebody else is doing. I can't even.
I watch it just because I'm an information geek, man. I just love learning stuff, new things, learning about new things. So I'm reading different things constantly. I've got like 8 books I'm reading right now. And I'm constantly watching videos on things. Like I just jump headfirst into it. We just built a garden or planted a garden out back. So I literally watch probably 20 videos on like planting a garden and like, but I think it's important to
We'll
like,
step over this.
I think it's important to still get to step away from the magic for a bit and to gain inspiration from other things, right?
Yeah.
So, and don't even think about how that could relate to the magic. Just gain inspiration just for the fact of gaining inspiration, right?
So I want to give practical tips because I don't want people to listen to this and then say, that was great information, guys, but I don't know what to do with it. I want to make sure that there's things that you're actually taking action on. And so just something I came up with would be to watch either a commercial, a song, a video, a movie that you really like, that you remember having an emotional or a visceral reaction to. It doesn't even have to be emotional. It could be something gross or something scary. And then just write down what emotion you want to get across or what feeling. Was it energy? Was it sadness? Was it community? Was it growth? Really write that down.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was put in that video, that movie, that song made you feel that way. So for instance, maybe it was, for Coca-Cola, it was the red bike. Like, you can't quite put your finger on it, but something with the red bike. And then find a way that you can use, because people might be so worried about copying things so obviously, but nothing really is original anymore. And so, like, you have to draw inspiration from anything. And so, red bike, maybe do a trick with a red bike, or maybe it had to do with, the underdog, rising to the top. So underdog rising to the top. How can you build that in your show? And just write ideas. And for each thing that you have, write 3 to 5 ideas about that. Move on to the next thing. 3 to 5 ideas about that object or story. 3 to 5 things about this character, whatever. And then pick your 2 favorites and just come up with a routine. Or a trick or anything or a prop, whatever it is.
Yeah. I actually have a folder, like specifically for music. I have a folder on my computer that says like music for routines. Like if I hear something, if I'm going through the music for a client, and I hear something, I'll put it aside. And just I think it's important too, just to not really, like I said, don't really think about like how is this going to relate? How do I relate this to my show? I think it'll just naturally come. I mean, at least that's the way it's been for me.
So this is really personal, but I'll share a actual example of me doing this. I was in the gym after my most recent breakup, and the song, I don't know the name of it, but it's by Elenium, or am I saying the name right?
I have no idea.
Anyway, you'll know the song when I say the lyrics here. It's like, tell me what you hate about me, whatever it is, I'm sorry. Like, because sometimes you just don't know why things happen. And like, people can just leave you in your life without an explanation. And I was like, man, like that is a powerful thing. Like I felt that. I'm in the gym and I'm like feeling it. I'm like, man, this is a good song. And it's not. It's just like a poppy song that normally wouldn't attract me. But it connected with me. And that idea of taking something that's so personal and then being able to communicate it so well, I was like, what can I do in my show that will do that? Like, what's something that people always feel at some point in their life, but don't know how to communicate it? I want to try to do that for people. And so I've just been, ever since, thinking of ideas on that,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think this is good. I know that this one was a little rambly, a little all over the place. We kind of came up with this topic last minute, but we do think it's important for magicians to practice this, especially because we want to see some more creativity, I think, coming from the magic community.
Yeah.
It's just, and I get it. It's hard. It's just so hard.
Yeah. And think about the ways, this ties into in what ways can I make my show more dynamic and engaging, right?
Yeah.
And both are important, right? So you can make it more dynamic, but it's not engaging at all, right? And you can make it engaging, but it's not really dynamic also. It's important to have those 2 things together in the show when you're delivering your show. And think about the story arc of your own show, right?
Yeah, and one last
inspiration of what you can think about, like how do I want my audience to be inspired from my show, and then how are you then able to tie in your own inspirations in order to facilitate that?
So the most powerful thing that happened recently about this, just to kind of wrap this up here, another example, because I just want to give you as many real world examples as possible, so it's not like woo, like, do this and you'll be successful, but we give you no tips or stories or personal experiences. There's an episode of Beyond the Magic where we went to Office Max to print merchandise we were selling after the show.
Yeah.
And there was a guy working there. His name was Zach. I still remember him. And I never emailed him the video.
No.
I have his email still, but I'll do that. We went in there. We just made this guy's job fun. He was just sitting there like doing his job, and we came in. We connected with him. We made him laugh. We like broke all the social norms. You know what I mean? By the end of it, it's like this guy could have went out with us. We would have been buddies with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was a big light bulb in my head of like, you know what? My show is about connection, because I take people who are at work, like in these corporate events, who are just doing their job, don't expect to be wowed or like connect with anybody so deeply. I get in there, I break all the social norms, I do weird stuff, I'm over the top, I'm energetic, I'd be silly, and then by the end of it, I want to feel like we can just go out, get a drink, and we'd be best buds.
Yeah.
And then that little moment, that little thing that had nothing to do with magic, but me just going in there to introduce myself to this guy, changed the way I think about my show. So it can even just be a little interaction.
Yeah.
Hope that helped.
Yeah.
Give you some ideas.
That's it.
That is it.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you in the next one.